Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Andrew Turner, founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast. Amazing. Today we have an amazing guest, Mr. Chris Reed. How are you, Chris?
I'm extraordinarily well. And it's Chris J. Mohawk Reed. It's not just Chris Reed. It's Chris J. Mohawk Reed. You have to get the Mohawk in there.
Is that official? You've got an official middle name of Mohawk?
Official middle name of Mohawk, yes.
Well, you've changed your name by deed-poll?
Yes, on LinkedIn. Yes, I officially changed it on LinkedIn. Therefore, it's legal.
So actually, I do have an admission to make. So actually this morning when I woke up, I actually did have a Mohawk myself. So I don't know whether it's kind of a premonition that we're coming on this episode together. You know, it's like trying to become a Mohawk at the top, but not quite getting there. And obviously, I've flown in my helicopter over to I believe somewhere close to where you are. So where are you?
Oh, really?
Where are you joining us from today?
I'm returning from Singapore.
Singapore.
Sunny tropical island Singapore. Yes, where our tax rates are phenomenally low and our lifestyle is fantastic. We always have summer.
Okay, this is the end of the episode with Chris J. Mohawk. So yes, as the people know from my podcast and from my show, I do have a tendency to kind of fly around the world on a regular basis and visit various different guests. And thank you for joining us today, Chris. It's good to see you.
Pleasure. Good to be here.
Exactly, and it's funny actually because when actually I did come across Chris, it's that thing where something not chases you, but follows you on the internet. So I think I must have clicked on something, and then suddenly this guy with the mohawk kept following me around the internet. So I thought I've got to find out a bit more about it. And then I found out it was an Englishman abroad. Yeah, it's just like it's not the Sting song "Gentleman in New York," it's "Gentleman in Singapore." And then and then what could I do but not refuse to bring Chris on the show? So Chris, given it's obviously late in the day in sunny Singapore, so what gets you up in the morning then? And what time do you get up in the morning?
I get about this morning. I get about 3:30. Because I go cycling about 4:30. So I basically get up, I check my LinkedIn, I check my comments, I check my emails, and then I get my inbox all cleared and my actions all ready. And then I go cycling for an hour, then I do some weights for half an hour, then I'm ready for work about 6:30 a.m. And that obviously fits into all the time zones across the world. So it fits in San Francisco still alive, so I can have my San Francisco calls, I can have my New York calls, for example, and then I can start talking to people in Australia. And then obviously Asia comes online. And then, as you know now, Europe comes online 6 hours. And then you guys, obviously 7 hours. And then it goes forwards. But I tend to do, I'm a morning person. You have to know your strengths. I'm a morning person. I'm more productive in the morning. I write blogs in the morning. I do more activity in the morning. And then I tend to do more interviews and more kind of European calls in the afternoon and evening. Okay. And then networking, of course. And we go networking every single day in Singapore because it's hot and sunny every single day. So you can go networking every single day.
Okay, this is definitely the end of the episode, right? So that's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. I mean, you are probably the guest who gets up the earliest I've ever had on the show. Actually, 3:30 a.m. That's kind of like more extreme than Jocko Willink. I think Jocko Willink's about 4:32 on his watch. But,
I saw a post once on LinkedIn that said this guy got up at 3:59, and he wanted everyone to know that it was 3:59 and not 4 o'clock. It was 3:59. He did his weights and all the rest of it. 4 million views in this video talking about how he got up at 3:59 in the morning.
So how do you keep that up then? Your body clock gets used to it.
Yeah, my body clock is completely. That's why basically, especially with no traveling now. So it used to be hell when I went to traveling. Because I went to Zurich, for example, then it'd take me a day to get over the jet lag. And you went to New York or something like that, or America, it'd be even worse. So you go to Australia, even Australia, like 2-3 hours ahead. It was for your body just the completely wrong way. But now, of course, I'm not traveling for the last 6 months. So basically, body just says, right, time to get up. Literally, between 3:30 and kind of 4 o'clock, I'm up and I go cycling. One of the reasons was because when we were kind of in semi-lockdown here, the quietest time to go cycling, I used to go cycling about 6 o'clock, but the quietest time to go cycling was about 5 o'clock because other people wouldn't get up. So then my body clock just got used to going 5 o'clock. Now everyone's back to kind of work and doing their fitness elsewhere. It's very quiet at that time. So it's even more of an incentive to do it because I can just get through my day, get through my 25 kilometers, and then I'm back, work without having to, juggle through the traffic, for example, of other people cycling and running and kind of jogging and walking at the same time. So it's very good. But I mean, Singapore, it's wonderful because it's all hot. It's hot at that time in the morning. So it's 28 degrees. It's just not sunny. So basically, it's a fantastic way to go up. I used to run when I was in London, you know, and you try running in London, as you know, in kind of sleet and snow and wind, and the ice comes across, and you know, there's hills and that kind of thing, you know, and it's just like not a pleasant experience at all. You can't cycle on the ice. Whereas you can cycle.
You can't cycle because you get knocked down by cars, basically.
That's true.
Or you get kind of, you know, compromised by buses, by red buses.
I used to live in Primrose Hill. You can't cycle in Primrose Hill. You can cycle that way, but you can't cycle upwards.
You can practice mountain biking there, I suppose. Yeah, downhill.
Or one of those electric banks. You could do that.
Oh, so you used to hang out with Liam then from Oasis then?
Liam, and who else was there? Chris Evans and Billy Piper and Hugh Grant and Colin Firth and all those kind of guys. Oh, Ricky Gervais, and all those guys were literally my neighbours. David Baddiel. You know, it's like you just see them buying milk and things like this. I've just seen you on the telly. Or in Starbucks, like, you've just been on the telly. It's like they just have to get used to the fact that everyone there is a millionaire, obviously apart from me, but everyone there is a millionaire, basically, and a rock star, or a pop star, or a theatre person, or a writer, or something. And that's just the way of life in Hampstead. People just basically just get on with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like I went into. I remember I went into Londis in Barnes a few years ago, and just near Hammersmith, because I used to live in Mortlake, just near the river.
Oh, yeah.
And there was that was like a bit of a, you know, kind of, I wouldn't say it wasn't rock stars. It was more kind of TV people. Like I think Ma Boswell from Bread was about the most famous person I saw. So I don't know what
I used to live in Barnes, because when I was marketing manager, my first job in London was marketing manager at the Hammersmith Odeon, the legendary Hammersmith Odeon.
Oh, were you? Really?
And I used to walk at home at 2 o'clock in the morning after the gig had finished.
Yeah, with the bridge.
And I used to walk across the bridge to Barnes. I'd love a nice little kind of flat in, well, not a little flat, a little Blacy. I was a house sharing, so I had a room basically in a house in Barnes, and I used to walk across the bridge.
You triggered my ultimate rock star kind of story now that I'm going to share on this episode.
Shoot, go for it.
So I love this guy. He's brilliant, right? Steve Vai, right? Steve Vai.
Oh yeah.
So he was obviously, you know, he's a legendary rock guitarist, and he used to play with David Lee Roth, right? Who's obviously also one of my all-time heroes, because he's just such a crazy guy. I went to see Steve Vai at Hammersmith Apollo.
Oh,
yeah?
Yep.
And
was it Apollo then or Odeon?
Wait, the what? You know, the one on the roundabout, yeah.
Yeah, but was it Odeon at the time? Because it's been Odeon for like 60 years, and then obviously it was bought by Apollo, and they changed the name.
Oh, but now you're testing me now. It was Hammersmith. Anyway. It was that big thing, that big theatre. But I bought a ticket on the top level. Oh, no, first level up.
The circle, yeah.
The circle, right at the front. Yeah. You have to get really good view. I went there. I was a bit late, and my seat was gone. So I go, excuse me, mate. You sat in my seat. Oh, yeah, sorry. I was sat in your seat, yeah. But then the best bit was that he had this drummer who basically looked like Billy Idol, you know, like with the spiky blonde hair. And he came on and he was doing like guitar licks, and he was basically doing like drum licks, not guitar. And then Steve Vai is obviously a brilliant guitarist. He can make the guitar sing, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was doing these really complex things, and this guy says, "I'm sorry, Steve, I can't do that." He said, "Look, I've heard Britney Spears is looking for a new drummer." It was absolutely brilliant. So if anybody listens to this episode, if you ever want to go and see a really good show, go and see Steve Vai.
He was here about 6 months ago, before the lockdown. He was here about, I think, in November last year. He was played in Singapore.
I've never seen anybody play. You know, I mean, Slash is one of my other guitar heroes. Yeah. You kick me off now. So this is going to be a guitar episode.
Slash. I saw Slash last year as well. So I saw him. He also played with Miles Kennedy here in Singapore. Okay,
so basically the news is that actually Andrew should move to Singapore. As I actually have done already virtually, as you can see from the Marina Bay stands behind me. I'm actually just sat in the bar, yeah, having a gin tonic. Anyway, so yes, so Chris Mohawk Reed. So thanks for sharing your morning routine. That's actually very, very, very interesting. Actually, it's inspired me to think about that. I should be setting my alarm clock early. I always set it for 5 o'clock in the morning, and I do some meditation stuff like that, and then get on with stuff. But I'm not doing 3:30 a.m. bike rides. So that's a new standard. That's a new level. Come on, step up, Andrew. So, but obviously behind you there is this kind of like extremely clear thing. There's some logos there. So
yes.
what kind of projects are you working on these days then, Mr. Reed, Mr. Mohawk?
Well, obviously
Mohawk I'm going to call you Mohawk man. Mohawk.
Mr. Mohawk, yes, Mr. Mohawk. My fifth company, because I exited 4 companies, 3 in the UK and 1 here. My fifth company is Black Marketing. Black Marketing basically makes you a rock star. Basically takes over your LinkedIn, manages it completely, does your content marketing, your social selling, your personal branding, and makes you a complete rock star to achieve any goal you want, whether it's a new job, a promotion, getting investment, winning clients. We tend to work for entrepreneurs and individuals and people who want to stand out for whatever reason within a professional context. So it's literally making you a rock star on LinkedIn.
And so that's all you do? You just do LinkedIn?
That's it. I know nothing about anything else. I only know about LinkedIn. So I was a marketing entrepreneur before. I had 3 marketing businesses in the UK, which we sold. But when I came over here and the digital, we're talking, when I went to Hammersmith, the internet didn't exist. So literally, I'm the opposite.
I mean, that was the 80s. Was that the 80s then?
That's the 89, 90, yeah. So I moved to London in 1990. So literally, the internet didn't exist. We had typewriters. I was writing press releases on a typewriter. When I made a mistake, I went, "Oh God, I need Tipex." And we used to have Tipex. Yeah. And when I watch Mad Men,
you have to have a very big bin that you can throw the. So
it's just
version
ridiculous.
56 of the letter or the PR release,
Yeah, so it's absolutely ridiculous. So basically, it was all about looking at how you can do marketing in that perspective. So when I came to Singapore, I didn't know anybody. I started using LinkedIn to network. I realized nobody else knew how to use LinkedIn, so it was a niche to actually use. And still to this day, people are not using LinkedIn properly. They're not posting. They're not doing their personal branding. They're not even filling out their profiles, and they don't realize the power of things like Google. So people say to me, "Oh, I don't use LinkedIn." I say, "Well, you use Google, don't you?" So what happens when I Google you? The first thing that comes up is your LinkedIn profile. Unless you're famous and on Wikipedia, it's your LinkedIn profile. I go, "Oh, I didn't realize that." And I said, people are Googling you before they meet you. People are Googling you when they hear about you. So the first thing that comes up needs to be your LinkedIn profile, even before your website. And for me, my LinkedIn profile comes up and then my website, even though my website is called chrisjreed.com. And even though I've got the perfect URL, it still gets beaten by LinkedIn. Because LinkedIn basically looks at Google looks at, how trusted is this and what goes into it and the amount of links to it and so forth. So they look at LinkedIn and say, okay, it's got thousands of connections, got all this content going on, therefore it's going to be number 1. And it's as simple as that. And people don't realize that's happening all the time.
So through natural search, basically.
Oh, totally. Just through organic search. And that's what people are doing all the time. And then when they click on your LinkedIn profile, through our Google, they're getting a positive or mostly negative impression of your personal branding, an incomplete profile, maybe your last job, not your current job. That happens so often. People don't change their jobs, but you work here now, but you don't work there. Yeah, I just haven't done it yet. It's like you realize people are Googling you and you see that you work for somebody else. And little things like not sharing any content, share some content. Only 1% of people on LinkedIn share content. Become a thought leader on LinkedIn merely by sharing some content. So little things like that. So there's and as LinkedIn grows.
How big is LinkedIn now then? How many people?
So it's 700 million users, but it's not active users. So there are only 320 active users, 320 million active users. So basically LinkedIn is unlike the other platforms. They don't have to give active user numbers like basically Facebook does or Instagram does or any platform, because they're not a PLC by themselves. They're owned by Microsoft.
Yeah.
So there's 700 million registered users, but 320, 350 million actually active users. So it's finding those people to do business with is what we do for as a clients and what I do. I find people who basically invest in LinkedIn, but do it really, really badly. They basically buy the premium or buy Sales Navigator or buy Recruiter, and they have no idea what they're doing, or they don't have the time to do it. 9 times out of 10, they have a day job and they haven't got time to write content or answer the messages or send out messages or complete their profile or get some recommendations. And that's what we have a job for. So just like you might outsource accountancy or technology or website or SEO or something else, we basically go to people who want to outsource their LinkedIn marketing and their personal branding, because LinkedIn's all about personal branding. It's not about company branding. You market the company through your personal profile on LinkedIn, because the way that people like to engage with and buy people on LinkedIn, they don't like to engage and buy companies on LinkedIn. And that's really, really important, because a lot of people think, I'll just apply advertising on LinkedIn for companies, and that doesn't work. It's all about the person. It's what I call the Elon Musk, the Richard Branson factor. You buy into the person to buy into the brand.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's interesting, because I noticed on your LinkedIn profile, you actually, according to LinkedIn, you work for Spotify.
I do, because I didn't say I work for Spotify. What I said was my
It
four
looks
books.
like you work for Spotify, shouldn't it?
Indeed, but my 4 books are basically listed on Spotify, and it clearly says basically my books are on Spotify as well, so Apple Music and Amazon and Google and all the rest of it, YouTube. So basically I list down all the basic, and that helps with the SEO, because then people who basically search for Apple, then I pop up. And then basically, oh, he's a best-selling author. He's got his book on there. Oh, I'll look on Spotify, and I'll basically go and find his book on Spotify or Apple Music. So basically, it's a way of gaming the platform. So currently I have like 250 jobs or something, because I keep on listing things that I've done, and basically, and also in LinkedIn, you have to list it in different countries. So if you don't list it in like London, for example, you don't get found in London. So I'm listed in London and San Francisco and Zurich and Hong Kong and Singapore and Shanghai and Tokyo. Oh yeah. So it's a bit like the equivalent, you have Google, you have .com and you have .com, say .sg or .co.uk. If you only have .co.uk, you only get found in the United Kingdom. If you have .com, you get found globally. That's why all my URLs are .com, not .sg, because otherwise you just get found in Singapore. And I'm looking globally because obviously LinkedIn is globally. Well, LinkedIn works the same thing. You need to have basically something on LinkedIn which basically says where the countries, where the cities you are actually working in, so that you can get found by people searching in LinkedIn for those particular services in that particular city.
So it's like multiple. Okay,
multiple
so
entries.
That's on the link. That's actually on the link itself. Then.
No, that you have to basically duplicate the experiences. So if you look at my black marketing one has something like 50 locations, 50 positions, because it's the same position, CEO and founder of black marketing, but it says Zurich, then it says Shanghai, then it says New York. But I have to literally copy and paste, and register it as a different position in order to basically get found in those cities if someone's looking for a LinkedIn marketing service or a personal branding service. But so it helps in the SEO. So as a result of that, I've got one of the most searched profiles in the world, because I'm constantly gaming the platform to get found. Because obviously, and it's all organic. You can't buy it on LinkedIn. It has to be organic. You have to basically manipulate it in a good way. I mean, you're putting down authority there. You're saying, LinkedIn marketing or personal branding, and you're putting it in the headline. Therefore, someone puts in. And the best example of that is Mohawk. People have found me. Every week I get told this story. I forgot your name, but I remembered your Mohawk. I put Mohawk into LinkedIn and you popped up first. And I contacted you and we have a conversation. So that's happened time and time again. It's one of my clients just by Mohawk is my ultimate SEO name.
Yeah.
Put it into LinkedIn, 150,000 people come up, but I'm the only person with it in the headline. People go, oh, that's the guy I met about a year ago or 6 months ago or whatever. And that's the power of LinkedIn. It's a search engine. People don't realize it's a search engine.
It's a bit like your signature, isn't it? It is literally your.
Oh, completely. It's my personal branding.
Like having your own hashtag, basically.
Totally, it's my personal branding. But everyone's got something like that. I call it the metaphorical Mohawk. You've got the G&T sessions, which I love. I think it's absolutely fantastic. That's your USP. That's what, if you put that into LinkedIn, you come up top, because no one else has got the G&T sessions on LinkedIn. That's like, you own that now. And that's how you basically start a conversation with people. I know somebody who is the voice of all the GPSs across the world, and she's on 3 billion devices because she calls herself the GPS girl. And obviously she doesn't do that for a living, because once you've done it, you don't do it again and again and again. But basically she gets marketing because she's the GPS girl. She gets remembered because she's the GPS girl. If you put GPS girl into LinkedIn, she comes up top.
Wow. It's amazing, really. Isn't it? I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing how you can do that. So I mean, so you kind of, I know you jumped over it a little bit, but the kind of the backdrop to how you got there, because I mean, you obviously are not originally from Singapore, even though I am, obviously, secretly. I was born in Singapore, not. But Singapore's a lovely place. So what happened? What happened before that? What can you give a bit of a backstory then?
Well, I was an entrepreneur in the UK. So I was born in Newcastle. I obviously realised pretty early on that nobody actually had a good job in Newcastle, and there was no money in Newcastle, and they didn't do any marketing in Newcastle.
unless you're a football called Gascoigne or something. You know.
Well, even then, even the footballers left. All the big footballers there who got success or left to get success. Gascoigne, Beardsley, Waddle, whatever. They left. So I left to go to London when I was 20 years old. Spent 20 years in London working for places like the Times or Bauer or kind of like, various kind of like massive brands and publications and newspapers, media, radio. And then I started my own business.
Were you a journalist then, or were you?
No, marketing. I always did marketing. I was a marketer. I studied marketing when I was like 13, 14 years old and loved it straight away. I knew that's what I wanted to get into straight away. Marketing was the thing for me.
What do you love about marketing then? Why do you think marketing? Why do you love it, and why do you think it's good?
Because it's all about branding. It's all about, at the time it wasn't personal branding, it was company branding, but it's all about branding and content. It's all about, how you get someone to do something. It's about kind of manipulation, persuasion. It's the fascinating factor of how you actually do that. That's why I love watching things like Mad Men, and you learn so much things on Mad Men about, you do that, you do that. And the principles of Mad Men still hold today. It's about branding and design and catching the attention and the strap lines and so forth. And it's just fascinating. How do you get someone to buy something?
When you say Mad Men, you mean the 1950s?
1950s, 1960s series. Absolutely fantastic. But it's how do you get someone to buy something? So that's why I love working with entrepreneurs. All our clients are entrepreneurs or individuals who want them to buy something. It could be them they want to buy, or it could be a product or a service. And we work out on LinkedIn, how do you get this client, target audience, which we can find on LinkedIn, to buy this service or this product by presenting yourself in a positive way through your personal branding and your content and your social selling. And LinkedIn is basically is my platform for that, because it's all B2B, and there isn't any other B2B platform in the world, and it's the best platform to do that. And it's all about how you use things like content and creativity to actually do that. And that's a fascinating challenge. How do you do that? And that's why I love iterating. I love testing things, and I love saying, well, let's try this script with 100 people. No, that didn't work. Let's try this script. Oh, that did work. Now let's try this content, or let's try this blog, and let's try this subject. And it's just fascinating to see what works and what doesn't work, because the things you think work don't, and the things that you don't think work do.
Well, I mean, because it's interesting. See, I know we talked before about one post that I did on LinkedIn, which actually had me in the picture, and actually had a personal story associated with it, which I won't go into now. But the response from LinkedIn was huge, And yet something then that actually then and I think this is the thing that the problem people fall into trap of, that they then repost somebody else's content, and then actually it doesn't get any traction at all. And I think you were explaining a bit of that. You were explaining a bit why that happens, weren't you?
Yeah, because basically LinkedIn looks at authentic content, original content, and promotes that. And if it's got a picture of you in and not a Shutterstock image or a standard image, then even better, because it looks authentic. And if it's got you and another person and you can tag that person, then basically more people can actually see it as well. So it loves authentic content, promotes authentic content, because obviously it's a content engine. It's a content platform. It doesn't have any content. It's basically screwed. And it's a networking platform as well, but it's ultimately a content. People scroll through the feed. And so it needs content. But if you basically just see a bit of content and reshare it, LinkedIn goes, well, no, because that's already been shared by somebody else. So that's no longer authentic and original content. You're just basically piggybacking on somebody else's work. We're going to demote that down to the bottom, which whenever you see reshared content, it's always nobody views it.
Right.
And that's the key to LinkedIn. You've got to create original content, and that could be, talking about, the G&T sessions, for example, promoting that. That's original content, or a view on something, or a post, or a picture, or you networking with somebody else and sharing that. I mean, it's still social. People like to buy people. So if you do pictures of you with other people, it'll get lots of traction, because ultimately people like pictures.
We have to do a picture together then.
It's
going to be billions of views if me and you do it, especially if I've got a mohawk and you've got a mohawk at the same time.
When you come to Singapore, Andrew, that's what we'll do.
Yeah, selfies are us. Yeah. No, anyway. I mean, this is the problem. How do you do pictures together now? You suppose how do you do pictures together with the virtual world that we now live in?
I know, it's difficult.
The virtual Dilbert zones that we live in. Anyway, it's good to talk. It's good to meet people. I'd be like you craving to meet people. Please meet me. Please. No, social distancing. 6 feet away. So in your journey, obviously you explained a bit about you came down from the northeast. It's the big city with big lights and the the streets paved with
Paved
gold.
with gold. Yes.
Exactly. And then, so you then worked for some obviously some big brand names, but then it sounds like you had a kind of did you have kind of like an epiphany moment? You know, you had this kind of light bulb.
I basically hit.
I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, I spent 10 years working with big corporations and realized I spent far too much time doing politics. I'm not very good at politics. I tend to say what I think, so that doesn't do very well in politics. So I could never become a politician. And then basically, I realized in my kind of last job that I got paid by somebody, that basically it was the .com boom that went then bang. It was too early. We had a video platform. We were basically working for a football fans website, but it was all video content, and video content in 1990 didn't really work. So, 2000 didn't really work because the videos couldn't stream on the internet. So basically it crashed. And every internet, every .com at the time, it all crashed. So basically I got made redundant from being the CMO of that particular company. And then I thought that's the time to start my own business, because I didn't want to work for anybody else anymore. I'd worked in a concert venue, I'd worked in radio stations, I'd worked in newspapers, I'd worked in magazines, I'd worked for the biggest brands in the UK, the Times, the Sunday Times, Take a Break, TV Quick, Hammersmith Odeon, all the radio stations of what used to be EMAP and is now Bauer, the #1 stations in all the cities, from KISS to Key 103 and to Metro FM. Yeah, I worked for all those. I did the marketing and the promotions and the concert promotions for all those. So there was nowhere else to go from a media point of view. So I then started my own business.
But now you see what you are. You are a LinkedIn lovey now, you see, aren't you? That's what you are.
But the point of that is that I used the connections, the networking from the people I knew at all these places, and they all became clients. And the people I came across in those areas became clients as well. And that's the key to networking. Basically, that's what LinkedIn does. It's all about networking. As my granddad used to say, it's all about who you know, not what you know, because who you know gets you further than what you know. It's about connecting, and networking. And that's basically why I became an entrepreneur. So I could just do what I wanted, be my own boss, travel if I wanted to. And basically, you can have a business where you're passionate about it and you don't have to answer to anybody, because you can say no to clients. And that's the most powerful thing. You just say no. People want to become a client. You clearly they're not going to become a good client. You basically say no. And you can't do that if you work for a big company.
So you like to say no?
I like to say no.
No, so what you say? So it sounds like the video stuff. Obviously, you were kind of ahead of your time, because it sounds like it's a precursor to what is now YouTube. Is that?
Completely. I mean, Rivals. It was called Rivals.net. It was basically a football fan site. So we had all the fan sites of all the football teams, cricket teams, rugby league teams, rugby union teams, cycling teams across the whole of the United Kingdom on this platform. Basically, we had video on it as well. But of course, video doesn't really work. So we had the fan sites on there. So it was unofficial content. It was really raw content. People abusing each other and that kind of thing, and it was basically, you can imagine Celtic, Rangers, Newcastle, Man United, Man City, Liverpool, Man United, anybody but Man United, basically, and it was great content. So that, from that point of view, it's fantastic. But the point of view,
it's like a mini kind of soccer or a sports Facebook, isn't it? Sounds like.
Oh, totally. That's what it was. It was way, way, way ahead of its time. Like 6 years before Facebook existed, we had Rivals, but it basically was way, way ahead of its time. The technology wasn't there to make it fast enough. The traction wasn't there, and that's when the .com boom also kind of went down. And obviously, you had September the 11th as well, which basically propelled it even further. And that's when basically, it's a good time to be an entrepreneur, because you can be nimble and you can go to different areas and you can innovate, and that's what it does. That's why, and I was always going to become an entrepreneur, because my granddad's an entrepreneur, my uncle's an entrepreneur, my father's an entrepreneur. It's in my blood and in my family. I can never work for anybody else, and that's why I came to Singapore. I want to become an entrepreneur over here, because I want to say, okay, I've been an entrepreneur in the UK, sold business 3 times. I want to come over to Asia and see what I can do in Asia.
Because I think, because as probably, I don't know if everybody on this listening to this podcast would agree, but I suppose, I don't know, where is you talk about G&T, right? So where is the growth going to come? Yeah, I mean, Asia. I know that. Well, I know that when I was in Asia a few years ago, that the business is phenomenal over there. I suppose also you've got the thing with, so I've done quite a bit of stuff in South Korea as well, which is a very interesting place to be as well. But I don't know, with this whole kind of 2020 year that's happened so far, do you still see those opportunities over in Asia?
Without a shadow of a doubt. What's the #1 economy in the world that's doing so well at the moment? China. You know, China is booming at the moment because it had the COVID virus and then basically it sorted it out and then basically it's going back up again now. And it doesn't need the United States. It's going to become the #1 market in the world, whether the United States likes it or not. Nothing they can do about it. And then we have India on our kind of doorstep as well. They got their act together and stopped the corruption. They'd be good as well. And then we have Indonesia, 300 million people next door. We have, you know, Philippines, 100 million people. Thailand, 100 million people. Myanmar, 80 million people. You know, these are just getting started.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the technology in a lot of these countries is not very good at all. I mean, I went to Vietnam like 12 years ago and the technology was terrible. It's much better now. And there's like co-working spaces and entrepreneurs there because the cost of living there is kind of much less than obviously places like Singapore, Malaysia. And so it's these countries, the point is these countries are just getting started. And you can see that in the LinkedIn penetration. You know, it's like, I think it's 60 million in India, it's 50 million in China, it's like 10 million in Jakarta. So, you know, considering the size of these countries.
Yeah, like 1.5 billion people in
Precisely.
India. Yeah.
It's going to grow and grow and grow. Whereas the US and Europe is saturated. UK's got 25 million users on LinkedIn. Where's it going to go? There is nowhere else for it to go. That's all the white collar workers in the United Kingdom. America's at 150 million. Where can it go? Nowhere. In Canada, 50 million. There's nowhere else to go in Europe in terms of all they can now get is people who are graduates or students coming on, and that's basically a slow burn at the bottom. Whereas Asia, they haven't even tapped into the middle classes and they haven't even tapped into everybody. Places like Singapore, obviously, we've got 2 million people here out of the 2 million people who are professionals on LinkedIn. So it's the #1 place in the world for penetration. And Hong Kong's the same. But you've got other places like Shanghai, 25 million people there, only 3 million people are on LinkedIn. And it's the only social media platform that's allowed in China. Because
I was going to say, because that's the case? Is actually being? It's still
because it's a Chinese version. So cleverly, it's a Chinese version, so it's half owned by the Chinese government. So basically, it will never get banned, and that's why Trump hasn't bothered to go. Oh well, I'll ban LinkedIn because one, it's obviously Microsoft, it's an American company, but also in China, it's half owned by Microsoft, half owned by the Chinese government. So there's nothing you can do about that. But it's a censored version. It's still censored like everything else.
That's a smart
move.
move.
Totally. Whoever did that like 6-7 years ago was very smart.
Interesting. But was that must have been done before? Must have been done with Reid Hoffman running it then before they sold Microsoft.
Yeah, it was done before Microsoft bought it. Yeah.
Wow. Smart. You see this? It's all the PayPal boys. You see, into Elon. Elon, Reid, Peter Thiel. Good on them. Interesting. I saw today that actually, I don't know if you saw the Tesla shares. They've done a stock split, haven't they? It's worth 500 billion now. It's Tesla.
Yeah, I know. It's take over the world. That's a great example, Andrew, of personal branding. If anyone else had owned that company, it would not be worth 500 billion. Because that doesn't have the power of his charisma and his personal branding and his outrage. Like the other day, just created a PR campaign. He said, I haven't been in the news for like 2 days. I'll make something up about this pig having something in the brain, and you can monitor the brain of this pig or whatever. And people go, wow, it's amazing, Elon, you've made this pig a brain and you can manipulate it through robots and AI. And it's like, it was completely untrue. It wasn't true at all. It was like something he'd probably thought about, which he thought might be a good idea.
Made it up.
Completely made up. It's based on something, but it wasn't reality. But it was in the front pages of all the newspapers, the media, Elon Musk doing this. Great PR. And every time he's in the newspapers like that, or PR, it used to be what Richard Branson used to do in the newspapers. Richard Branson doesn't do that anymore, but Richard Branson used to be in the 70s and 80s, as you know. Basically, used to be, front page of the Sun, and when the Sun used to be selling 5 million copies.
Virgin Atlantic hostesses being, carried up the stairs. And
that's what, he was the forefront of personal branding. He used to do PR campaign purely to get people's attention for Virgin Atlantic and Virgin Megastores and Virgin Cinemas and all that kind of thing in the 70s, 80s, when there was no internet. Basically using newspapers and radio and TV and 2 stations to actually get PR. And all that Elon Musk has done is taken it to the ultimate level of the internet, where he basically just feeds the news cycle 24/7 in terms of what he's doing. And he's phenomenally clever in terms of his personal branding. And everyone thinks it's chaos. It's not chaos at all. It's very well thought out.
But do you think the converse of this, though, is it creates... it creates these kind of like the Steve Jobs of this world, the Elon Musk, the Jeff Bezos. It creates kind of this iconistic, superhuman, like Iron Man, like Robert Downey Jr. Yeah.
Yeah.
but then, you know, I don't know. Is the converse of it then is people then always comparing themselves to how their life or their progress is being made versus that, and then that can cause not great outcomes sometimes. Because
totally agree. And LinkedIn's just as bad.
There's a yin and a yang to it, I suppose you could say.
Totally agree. And LinkedIn can be worse for that, because LinkedIn, all you see is good news on LinkedIn. Apart from people being laid off, all you see is, oh, I've just raised $100 million, or I've just, you know, sold my company for $1 billion, and I'm a unicorn now, and I'm amazing, and I've won this trophy, and I've done this. And it's like, and everyone else is going, fuck. It's like, how did he get $100 million? How can I get $100 million? Why is my company not getting $100 million? Or why is my company not a unicorn? And of course, it like all social media, Instagram, Facebook, it presents a positive side 9 times out of 10, not the negative side. So you smile when you put it, you know, on Instagram, or you smile. You never see the downside. People don't always go, oh, well, I had a terrible day today, and, you know, I lost this deal, and the company's gone bad, and all the rest of it. That never happens on LinkedIn. It's always 9 times out of 10 positive, because it has to be, obviously, because it's part of PR, and it's part of, you know, how do you win investors, how do you win clients?
Do you think that'll ever get real? It's not real.
No,
it's not real.
No, it's gonna. I mean, it get increasingly superficial. And you can see that with things like in OnlyFans. Well, you heard about OnlyFans. You know OnlyFans, yeah? So OnlyFans is actually a porn
I'm already
site.
on there. Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah. Have you not seen me? You know. No, I don't know.
It's a porn site.
What is it,
where
Chris?
people pay?
I have no idea what OnlyFans is. Go on.
It's basically a porn site.
Educate me, yeah.
But it's based on personal branding. It's based on personal branding. You know, an actress or someone who basically the one this week was the lady who used to be Disney, who got a brand name, who went basically, I'm not making any money. I'm going to go on OnlyFans, and I've got like 100,000 subscribers, or paying, you know, $10 a month each. Suddenly, she's making like $10 million a month. You know, just by being half naked or semi-naked or kind of half nude on there and sharing photographs. And that's basically, it's a very liberating platform for things like sex workers and that kind of thing, especially now, and models and so forth as well, because basically you can go on there, you can basically charge whatever you want to charge for exclusive content. You're totally in control of that. You get paid it, and it's a kind of liberating kind of e-commerce platform.
Chris,
so it's basically
come and join the party. I'm already on. You know, have you not seen OnlyFans stroke the GT sessions? The GT sessions, yeah. Maybe not. Listen, that's a bit of a conversation stopper, isn't it? No, I'm joking. No, that's getting creative, isn't it? That's having what I call a PPP, a pandemic-proof proposition.
No, totally. People can't travel. People can't do anything, so they're watching more things on TV, and they're watching more things on social media. And it's interesting. I have a theory on LinkedIn at the moment that actually videos and video usage is going down. And it was before, because we've analyzed some of the posts just of us and other people, for example, and the videos are going down. I think it's because so many people are having Zoom calls 24 hours a day. The last thing they want to do is watch a video on LinkedIn. Because like, oh, another video.
They've been zoomed to death, kind of thing.
Precisely, they're being zoomed to death because they don't want to watch a video. It's the same reason why webinars and LinkedIn Live doesn't work anymore. LinkedIn Live started like this, and LinkedIn Live is supposed to be the big. You could do this on LinkedIn Live, for example. But I've been on LinkedIn Live sessions. I've seen other people's, like 12 people, 14 people, 15 people, and it's just no stats whatsoever because people are being bombarded. I'm live, and then there's a Zoom call over here and a webinar over here. It's going, oh, it's overwhelming. And it's basically you have to cut through. So people are we're seeing an upturn in people's posts when they have a nice photograph of themselves or a photograph of them with somebody else, and they've written a provocative or interesting or thought-provoking post. People can actually read it, not have to watch a video, and that can actually respond to it because they don't want to watch a video anymore. So I think basically Zoom's killed the video star, as I like to call it, on LinkedIn as a result of it.
The buggles. I thought it was radio killed the radio.
Precisely. See how I twisted that there?
Video killed the radio star. Video killed the radio star.
Video killed the Zoom star.
Video killed the OnlyFans star. Yeah, exactly. God, I'm not going to get that out of my head now. You see, you've thrown me now, man. You've thrown me.
You're going to be on it, aren't you? I can see on your LinkedIn. And now available on OnlyFans, Andrew Turner and the G&T sessions. Not naked whatsoever.
Fig leaf
Pay for me not to be naked.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself. Yeah, I've got, maybe I've got tattoos where, you don't know they are, Fig leaf. I've got a fig leaf tattoo. So what I was going to ask you about your tattoos, by the way. Obviously for people who can't see this on listen to this on Spotify, that's obviously some serious tattoos you got there.
Yeah. I mean, most of them half of them are done in Hong Kong. One of them is done in London. 3 of them are done in Singapore. So yes, these are obviously my favorite ones. The Joker one, which took about 14 hours to do.
Oh wow!
Because it's a certain
Heath Ledger, yeah.
That's the Heath Ledger Joker, of course, yes. But I've got the other Heath Ledger Joker over there, which is basically different designs. I like basically creating different designs. This is basically done by a guy in Hong Kong, who basically it's called Trash Polka. This is the kind of style. It's kind of dark blacks and dark reds, whereas this one was done by the more traditional kind of dot black one. So it basically, it's part of your personal branding as well. And I push it on LinkedIn because I don't believe that people should be judged by having a tattoo. And people still judge people on LinkedIn. Obviously, I run my own business, so I can do what I want. But other people, I know it turns people off, but the Mohawk turns people off as well. So I don't really care. But basically, I don't really like when I read about on LinkedIn saying, I can't show my sleeves, or I have to cover up this because my boss doesn't like it, or I've been told I won't get promoted or won't get the job if I have a tattoo. Because how does a tattoo possibly affect your ability to do
the job? Yeah,
especially now when no one's meeting anybody anyway, so you're not even going to see the bloody tattoo. It's completely pointless. So it's so prejudiced that I try and push that quite hard as well, saying people should be allowed to have tattoos or the rest of it based on what they do. Obviously, if they're basically going to be in court or wherever, they have to basically still dress respectively for that. But 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be in court, you're not doing this, you should be able to wear effectively what you want.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So I think what you're reflecting there is a bit like this piece around the Gen Z that I've been reading up about recently. Which one of my eldest son is Gen Z, my youngest son is probably Gen Alpha. They're kind of on the border, and but what they're saying is that the millennials were more around brand. They would buy Louis Vuitton, Gucci, etc. But the Generation Z are more about individualism. So kind of effectively, more entrepreneurial, and actually also more around having something that's unique to them. Yeah. So, but then the reason they do that is because they want to post something on social media. They've got a shirt, or they've got some dress, or they've got some kind of hat or something that's unique to them. That's that individualization. So it's interesting to see how that, because effectively you're a personification of a Generation Z.
Yeah, but obviously I was born the wrong era, because I only came to it late. And interestingly enough, I don't think I would even done it had I stayed in London. It was only when I came to Singapore and I had the confidence to basically try and stand out. Because obviously in Singapore, no one knew who I was. I came here not knowing a single person. So it's like, well, what do I do to stand out? And people started commenting on my hair, because my hair was spiky at the time, wasn't even a mohawk. And then I started realizing that basically I started growing a mohawk, and people started more commenting on it, and then I started coloring it. And then it became a phenomenon. Now I can't get rid of the bloody thing. It's like I have to basically, when I'm 60, I'll still have to have a fake mohawk or something. It'll have to be glued on by gel or something like that. But it's basically having the confidence to actually do it here, being an entrepreneur here, and obviously the weather's very much about part of that. You can't wear a suit here. When I first started the job here, I wore a suit. I walked to the MRT station, the tube here.
Yeah, you were
drenched. Yeah. Absolutely drenched. Yeah. The locals would look at me going, "Oh, there's an Angmo who's just got here off the boat," kind of thing, And then you go into this freezing air conditioning. So you go from 36 degrees and 80% humidity into air conditioning, and then you're going, "Oh my God, you got this pneumonia." But basically, so you have to basically, it took me a couple of years to get adapted to the weather by not having air conditioning on.
But it's interesting that you were saying there, though, that you actually didn't do it when you're in the UK.
Yeah, totally.
What is that a mindset thing? Is that what?
I think it is a mindset thing. So I mean, I was in London as well, so it wasn't even I came from Newcastle, and I went to London, which is obviously more open-minded in that kind of thing, more creative and so forth. But I worked for big media companies like the Times, and I wore a 3-piece suit. I wore it black. I wore a black shirt, so I made sure I had that differentiation. But you had to have a tie and a suit and a waistcoat and so forth, because that's what everyone wore at the Times. It was the Times, for God's sake, the Sunday Times. You're talking about one of the most powerful brands in the UK. And so basically, it's expected of you to dress in a certain way.
What you're saying is you conform. You conform to what you thought was the.
In a way, yes. I still put my twist on it.
It was
I wore black.
The uniform.
But yes, totally,
Yeah.
totally. Because that's what happened. That's the uniform of the time. It had to be that. And I think things are relaxed anyway in London, but it's still coming to Singapore as an entrepreneur. You basically you nothing to lose. You're basically out there. You're going, okay, this is me. This is what I'm going to do. And I'd be myself more. I write more provocative blogs over here, more provocative posts, and get your brand out there, get your content out there, nothing to lose. And I think expats in general, I found, are more confident and they're more open-minded because they've moved country. They're physically, they're mentally, they've moved country, especially with an expat like me who's got no intention of going back because I'm now Singaporean. So I've given up my UK passport.
Really?
Whereas a lot of expats actually come here.
I was actually going to tell the kind of the guys on the gate, you know, don't let him back in, actually.
I don't want to come back in. That's the whole point. But there are people here, there are expats in Singapore who come here for 2 years. Their wives hate it. The wives hate the weather. The wives basically can't work or don't want to work. And they end up going back after 2 years. And that's basically, that's to me is a missed opportunity. It's quite sad when I hear about people doing that because I think, oh, you've gone from Ireland or England, for example, to here. And you've gone, oh, I don't like these, you know, these foreign people. There's too many foreign people here. I'm a white person here and there's only 5% of us. I want to go back to the UK where, you know, there's more white people kind of thing. And it literally is that mentality of kind of like, whereas here, I've always been multicultural because I lived in London. I had the benefit of working in London, living in London, around Brixton and Hammersmith and so forth. It basically, you know, you see no difference between lesbian and gay and transsexuals and, you know, African Americans and, you know, Asians and whatever, Latinos. That's just part of nature. So when I came here, and you're a minority. Yeah, totally. When you're here, you're totally minority. Literally like 5%. 5-10% of people here are Caucasians. So, but people are not racist here. I haven't found people to be particularly racist here against white people. You know, I got the odd bit of abuse for, you know, some of my blogs or whatever, but that was because I wrote these particularly provocative blogs. But the point is, it's very, very multicultural here, multiracial here. We celebrate Muslim holidays here. We celebrate Hindu holidays here. We celebrate Buddhist holidays here, Christian holidays, and each of them are equal. And you don't get that anywhere else in the world, Andrew. Not a single other country celebrates all these holidays and treats them equally. No other country in the world does that. And it's amazing that we celebrate
on holiday. You're permanently on holiday. It's nice. It's nice weather. You're permanently on holiday. Yeah. The beach.
And we get all these days off as well. It's like all these days off. This is a holiday. Celebrate being a Buddhist.
Directly after recording this episode, I'm directly going to Heathrow to get on Singapore Airlines. So I know that you've talked about some of the things that you've been doing, which have been obviously kind of what you call your peaks, yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of sharing with the audience, I mean, obviously, you know, people have what I call peaks and valleys, right? They have the kind of things that they plan, and then things that maybe don't quite go as planned. So, I mean, what would be some stories or some sharing that you would do on that topic? What have you learned?
Oh, yes, so many of them. I mean, I'm divorced 3 times and married 4 times. I'm on my 4th wife. So that's obviously it's 3 failures there.
That peaks or valleys or both?
Both, I think. I have 3 kids of 3 of my wives. So, you know, it was like, and one of them's 19 in the UK and 2 of them are here in Singapore. So that's obviously, you know, a challenge, but also an opportunity because you can do quite a lot of things here, you know, and obviously things with the company have gone up and down. You know, we basically sold my 4th company. I sold it a couple of years ago and we were supposed to float and we were basically going to make millions, and then that all imploded. So that was a particularly bad experience. And if you Google it, you will find all the gory details of that. But that's about, you know, you learn what to do and you learn not what to do.
Are you doing that in the UK or are you doing that in Singapore?
No, here.
All right.
I actually did it in the UK as well. Actually, the same thing happened in both the UK and here. And I wasn't responsible for either of them, although people like to blame me for both of them. I just happened to be bought by people who basically promised to go like this, and then basically, you know, that happened instead. And that's a real lesson. That's being an entrepreneur.
What was you learning from that then? What was you learning from that?
What was my learning from that? Don't say yes so quickly. Do some more due diligence on people.
Right.
Because I meet people all the time here who basically said, oh, I was in your position, and I said no. And basically, you know, they had the opportunity to do what I did and potentially become a millionaire and sell the company and float and all the rest of it. And they said no because they did some more due diligence than I did, or they had a bad feeling about it. But I basically, I'm a very positive person. You have to be a positive person being a Newcastle United fan, because you're not a positive person, you'd be suicidal. Because they haven't won anything in my entire lifetime. So every single week, you're basically looking forward to being positive. And of course, you get disappointed every single week as well. But that's for an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs have to be positive. Entrepreneurs cannot be negative. Entrepreneurs cannot get in the morning and go, oh my God, I've got to run my business today. I've got to go, fantastic, new opportunity today. I'm going to get this deal today. I'm going to do this today. I'm going to write this bit of content. See what reaction happens there. I'm going to go meet Andrew today. I'm going to go do this. I've got this great thing going on tomorrow. And that's what entrepreneurs have to do. Because basically, if you don't motivate yourself as an entrepreneur, no one else is going to motivate you. And that's basically, that my view of the world is basically, I don't look behind, I look forwards all the time. And I basically learn from my mistakes and my lessons, and, learn from everything, whether it's my businesses or my marriages or whatever. And you learn the lessons, and you become a better father, a better husband, a better entrepreneur, a better boss going forwards. And I think that's just, maybe that's with age as well. You've only learned different things, and you basically don't care what other people think, less and less. but being in Singapore helps that. So in Singapore is a very confident place, and it's very much a place where they just take you as you are. And that, I think people in London don't do that. People in London, I think, judge much more than people in Singapore do.
Interesting. No, it's you're raising some topics, I think, that a lot of people do. What you're saying is culturally, it's this cultural norms and the cultural etiquette, yeah. And I suppose my classic line would be, if you're phenomenally successful, then usually people have a go at you, say, oh, why is it not me? Yeah. If you fail, they have a go at you because you go, wow, why have you not? So you go, okay, well, what do? You can't be successful, you can't fail. What do you do? Just go along the middle. As
Oscar Wilde said, Andrew, it's better to be talked about than not to be talked about at all. That is very, very true when it comes to things like social media and marketing and so forth as well. It's all about creating that positive word of mouth or negative word of mouth. Because as long as someone's talking about you, they're talking about you in a kind of, and then you can sell your business off the back of it. When I had a bad experience here, I wrote a blog about taxi drivers here, and basically I got all the front papers, or the front page of all the newspapers, the radio, the TV, the internet, and I got fired from my job to writing a post about taxi drivers here, and I almost got kicked out of the country. But I had name recognition there because every single person in Singapore knew who I was. So there's an opportunity. So I created black marketing on the back of it because I could then approach people and they go, oh, you're the taxi guy. And still to this day, people go, you're the taxi guy. And I even had someone comment on my blog. It was just 8 years ago now. Someone commented on my blog. And the editor of the publication sent it to me the other day saying, I can't believe that people are commenting on your blog from 8 years ago.
And what was this then? This was what you were having a go at the service of a taxi.
I was having a go at taxi drivers. I said they didn't know where they were going. And I gave like 15 examples of basically they couldn't find the place behind you, for example. I go into, say Marina Bay Sands. They go, where's that? So it's like, huh? What do you mean, where's that? It's that big building with towers and the boat on the top.
One over Andrew's right shoulder, exactly.
Yeah, the left there. And it's like literally things like that. And I gave this example, but they took offense. They took great offense. They put it on the front page of the newspaper. And it was a particular tabloid, the equivalent of The Sun. And they basically said the most hated cab passenger in Singapore.
That's why I now realise that's why you cycle.
That's why I work from home and cycle. Yes,
that's why you cycle at 3:30 in the morning, because there's no taxis around.
I'm not kidding. The paper had a cutout of me and my face saying, be warned about this person, which they encouraged the taxi drivers to put in all the taxis. I only got recognized kind of once or twice in taxis. People said, you're the guy who wrote that blog, aren't you? Because normally Singaporeans don't want to do that kind of thing. Singaporeans are much nicer than that.
That's like having a Western, isn't it? With it's like, $10,000 for the dead or alive.
It was like that. They'd really gone to a lot of effort, but in a very true, typical fashion.
I was actually considering coming to Singapore to hang out with you, but now I've actually reconsidered it. Don't get in a taxi with Chris Mohawk Reed. It could be dangerous. This wasn't Uber you had to go out with, was it?
No, it's before Uber, way before Uber.
Like the black taxi equivalent
the blue taxis here and yellow taxis here. But the amazing thing here was their weekend section of the newspaper, because obviously there's got lots of traction. They did analysis. They actually went out and asked everybody, what do you think of the taxi service? Chris Reed says this. What do you think about it? And literally 50% of people said, I agree with Chris Reed because I can't get a taxi here and this is wrong. And it doesn't, like literally there's a thing here where basically if it rains, the taxi drivers disappear. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. Why do they disappear? There's still a car. It basically can go in and so basically, but it's a common thing. And another thing here is they have taxi ranks here, and they basically, if they have a shift change, they work out what last taxi rank, the taxi they can do. And if they, where are you going? Where are you going? And they'll say no to passengers if the taxi thing is too far away from where they live, because they want to go basically to their home. And basically I wrote about this,
really?
and basically people review, oh yeah, it's hilarious. So people, they'll turn you down. And you go, I want to go here. Oh, it's not near where I live. It's like, huh? What do you mean? You're supposed to be offering a service. You don't get to pick and choose which kind of passengers you pick up, you know. That's not the deal here.
Well, Singapore's not
Other
that
people
big.
agreed with me.
It wasn't that big.
I know, but you know, but precisely. I mean, Singapore's not that big, precisely. I mean, like, so it's a bit ridiculous. But the point is that people there, that actually, half the people actually agreed with what I was saying. I just said it in the wrong way, basically.
So what you're saying, I've got to start blogging and I've got to start putting some kind of provocative content. Yeah, and then.
But you have to be careful. There have been people who posted stuff here, and they're no longer live in the country. You know, so.
Well, they actually got deported.
Yeah, people get deported all the time here. Like people who broke the curfew, for example, a lot of expats who broke the curfew, where you weren't allowed to go out drinking with other people without the mask on, or not allowed drinking at all, and they got photographed and put on social media. They no longer live in Singapore.
Wow.
They literally they got fines, and they got basically their work passes terminated immediately, and they got ejected from the country, never to be allowed to return in any way whatsoever.
It's pretty serious.
They don't screw around here. Like their stay-at-home notice here is completely opposite to the United Kingdom. Stay-at-home notice here means you go into a hotel or you go into your home, and only Singaporeans are allowed to go in their home. But you have to stay in your home for 14 days, and they check on you 5 times a day. They visit you physically.
Really?
They do video call. They do video calls with you. They phone you like to certain times. You have to show you in the particular room in that particular house. And the hotel here, you have to stay in the hotel for 14 days. You couldn't go out in that room. You can't go to the gym, you can't go to the restaurant, you have to stay in the hotel. But they check 5 times. And if you breach it, for whatever reason, you basically, if you're Singaporean or you're local or you're PR, you get put in jail. And if you basically, you're an EP, like an employment pass, it gets terminated immediately, you get ejected from the country. They don't fuck around here. They basically, you follow the rules here for a reason. You don't basically screw around.
So deep,
so you have to work within that.
Deep under this wild exterior, you see, he's very conformist. As we see, he's really. He likes rules. He likes being told what to do. Yeah. There's no raving. There's no raving going on.
You have to know. Yeah, you have to know the boundaries, because you know that here the boundaries basically, you know, can be consequences to your the breaking the boundaries. So I might push it quite hard, but I basically don't go over the limit.
So I suppose one of the other questions I got for you then was about predictions, because I think that given obviously you're obviously a lifelong marketer, and obviously and now a technology guru, or a guru on a particular, a very important platform, I would say, is, you know, LinkedIn is an incredibly powerful and interesting platform to be on. We're now in 2020. What's any view on predictions for the next decade? What I mean, are you kind of worried about what's going to happen in the future, or are you?
No, I'm not worried at all. I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm not worried at all. But basically, I don't believe in predictions, just like I don't believe in business plans. I've created 5 businesses without a single business plan, because business plans are complete bollocks. I've never met a single person whose business plan actually added up to their business. It just didn't happen. No one in the world has actually matched their business to their business plan. So I've never done it. Well, I think this is right. My instinct is telling me this is right. My niche is right.
It depends if you get. I suppose the thing is with the business plan is that if you get in external investors, yeah.
Yes, I mean that there is obviously.
It becomes something you have to manage, yeah.
Oh, totally. But they're still bollocks. Not a single person's business plan has matched up to the actual promises, because they've changed, or they've iterated, or conditions have come in, or something's happened, or they've gone off in this direction. And a lot of it can be positive. You can iterate and you can change direction and so forth. But so I never believed in business plans, and I never believe in predicting into the future either, because you couldn't predict in the future. You know, I had big plans for 2020, and look what happened to that. Everyone had big plans for 2020, and look what happened to that. Who knows what's going to happen next? But it's an opportunity to do something else. It's an opportunity to basically, you know, we're winning more clients in America and Europe now than ever before. before, because the fact that we're now level with every single person who does LinkedIn over there, because they can't go and meet anybody either. So I'm basically going in and basically saying, well, here's my credentials. Who are you basically finding on LinkedIn? And they're saying, well, this guy over here, but I haven't met him and he hasn't got your credentials. So I'll go with you instead. I'll just, pick up client today in Switzerland, pick up your client yesterday in UK, pick up client, all the time for the United States, for example, or Sydney or Hong Kong, or in fact in Singapore, but doing it via Zooms, for example, and not necessarily meeting people, because it's a level playing field now. And if you it's basically made it much easier for me, because I used to travel all over the world to Zurich and Berlin and New York and San Francisco and Shanghai and Hong Kong, and I used to love it. But it's obviously very, very stressful doing that, and it's basically time consuming and doesn't always go. Whereas you can do a million Zoom calls in a day and basically pick up clients much more efficiently, and you can obviously market yourself on LinkedIn and market your personal branding, which is why everyone's got opportunity to do it themselves. And no one can basically say they don't have the chance to do it, because you can do it on LinkedIn. Your personal branding's there. So I think you can't make predictions. I've never made predictions at all, because it's completely pointless, because you don't know what's going to happen. As it was the great quote of, who was it, Winston Churchill or something, saying, events, my dear, events. Basically you can't predict what's going to happen. Events will happen, and you can't control events.
I was looking forward to, like, not through the keyhole, but obviously, like looking to the kind of crystal ball of Chris Reed, given you are at the epicenter of the growth of Asia, the gateway to Asia. And you disappointed me now. You disappointed me. Why? I tell you, why did they get him on the show? Why did I get no show? Oh, I should have cancelled. I should have stopped the episode earlier. Twice. It's a comedy moment.
Comedy moment.
No. So okay. So I wasn't sure. Okay, you've now said you don't want to predict anything. Okay, fine.
No, I don't think you can.
I'm talking that.
Predictions are bollocks. Predictions are complete. They don't mean anything. Because you have visions, you can have hopes, but you can't predict anything, especially now. There's no way on earth. You ask 100 experts at the moment, when will the travel industry recover? And you get 100 different answers, including it will never recover. So basically, people are saying, oh, we'll be traveling by January, and other people will be saying, oh, you'll be looking to travel by 2030. So okay, what's the answer?
So I've got another question for you then. So what are your dreams and what are your hopes and goals for the next 10 years then?
Obviously, I want to build up black marketing. So basically, this is the newest iteration of black marketing. So we're growing because we're winning clients all over the world, and we basically opened up service providers, and we've now outsourced a lot of our work to South Africa and Portugal and Malaysia and Sydney and Philippines, and that will enable us to scale much greater, because it doesn't rely on me having to employ people in one particular country. And now basically I can scale, and I can find service providers to do it, and I can use my brand, which becomes more powerful every single day in terms of, people know more about me, my books, my recommendations, my content, and so forth, and become the authority of LinkedIn. So therefore the opportunity is to me to be fronting it and to be selling it and to use best practice and use my IP in terms of how we then deliver it. So that's a great opportunity for the next couple of years to actually grow it with a view to potentially selling it. I mean, with like any entrepreneur, I want to sell it at some stage. I've already sold a version of it once. I'll sell it again. It's just a matter of positioning it in such a way where it becomes attractive to someone like a Salesforce, an Adobe, or a Buffer, or a Microsoft, or whatever, who then say, yes, we need a LinkedIn marketing firm. We need to be LinkedIn market. We need to offer this to our clients, and obviously from my perspective, it's easier to scale if I manage to basically sell this to a multinational who has potential salespeople in all the different countries who can use my IP and my branding to actually sell it.
Do you see yourself as selling your business and then just actually retiring then,
No, never. No, I can never see myself retiring ever. Not least because the cost of retiring in Singapore is phenomenally expensive.
I'm going to cancel that trip to Singapore.
No, because one of my greatest heroes is Rupert Murdoch, because of the way he basically has iterated and come back, and resilience, and he's also married 4 times as well. But just the way he basically is still going at 86, 87 years old.
You look the same as well, very similar. It's like brother. Yeah.
But I don't agree with his politics.
It's those long shirts he wears. You can't see the Joker tattoo.
I mean, I don't agree with his politics, but I admire for what he did with the brands. I know how much he invests in brands because I used to work for News Corp. They own both the website I used. I worked for as CMO, but also the Times, the Sunday Times as well. So I know how they apply things, how they approach things, how they do things. And you just have to admire the fact he will never ever retire. He will basically go on to his mid-90s and basically drop down dead whilst he's at the newspapers or at the TV station. It's his passion. It's beyond the fact it's a job or how many billions of dollars he's got. It's a passion. He loves doing it on a daily basis, and you get that when you read about the older the young Rupert Murdoch and his passion for newspapers and his passion for content. You get it. You might not agree with his politics and how he did it, but you can admire the fact he basically he knows his niche, he knows the quality, he knows the content, and he knows how to tell stories and get people to read them. And that's basically social media now. And the only thing he's failed to do is actually create a social media platform. Obviously, he destroyed MySpace. He bought MySpace, and it could have been Facebook. It should have been Facebook. Could have been worth $100 billion. Instead, it's worth nothing. So, you know, that's the true, basically, his only failing, I think, was basically not being able to do an internet service or like a website platform or social media platform. And really, with his strength of brands, he should have been able to do that. But you have to admire it. But my point is, I would see myself the same way. I'd never retire. I always like to do new things. So even if I sold it, I'd use the money to invest in other companies. I've always used the money when I sold my business to invest in another company, not to, stupidly, not to buy houses that people are obsessed with in the UK and Singapore and everywhere else. I've always invested in businesses because I've always thought, who cares about a house? I will always be working, always be generating cash, always be basically reinvesting and trying to find the next new thing or the niche here or a niche over there. Much more interesting than buying a house.
So you don't obviously own a house, then?
No, well, I've had 3 divorces, as I said, so I used to have 3 houses.
Okay. Yeah.
Each marriage cost me a house, basically.
A castle. You got castles and castles. Yeah. So in terms of I suppose, you know, lessons or kind of takeaways and kind of guidance. People listening to this episode today and saying, you know, it sounds like, Chris, you've been through a hell of a lot of quite a big journey yourself, and obviously multiple iterations of that. And it's a testament to what you've done already. That's, you know, I think it's great what you're doing now. It's fantastic. It's very, very iconic. Yeah, you are. Yeah, I think what you should do is actually, my idea for you is to, you know, like to put. He's laughing before I've even said anything. Is to put like a Superman outfit, but you could have like an L on it, you know, like a LinkedIn logo. You could be like LinkedIn man with a mohawk. Yeah, you know, I think you should do that. You should do a stunt like that, running around Singapore with like a cape on, like a blue cape and a white lycra outfit with a big blue logo on it.
That'd look great in a white lycra outfit.
You know, with a blue mohawk. Yeah. I think, no, I want to see that.
I'll tell you what, Andrew, if you come out here, we'll do it together.
No, I would do that. I would do that. I look very good in lycra.
Again, you're going to do an OnlyFans again, aren't you? For $10 a month, you can see Andrew in lycra.
No, it's just, I do a lot of cycling, so I've got, you know, I've done my cycling as well in my time, you know. So
that's fine. We can talk about that on OnlyFans. It's okay.
Can you imagine if we dressed up in kind of you know, like LinkedIn man matching outfits, cycling around Singapore at 3:30 in the morning with mohawks? That'd be a hell of a promotion. That would be.
Yes.
Never say never. Never say never.
Is that the time? I really must be going now. It's beer time here in Singapore, Andrew.
So in terms of your kind of pearls of wisdom, or, you know, kind of your guidance to people that listen to this episode, what have you learned? What would be some things that
the biggest thing is to basically do it. Whatever you want to do is to do it. You know, I could have said no to come into Singapore. You know, I had second thoughts about coming. Oh, do I really want to go over there? This is the hassle, all the rest of it, and away from my son and so forth. But it was the best thing I ever did in my life. It changed my entire personality. It made me much kind of younger in terms of, you know, well-being and stress levels. And basically, there was no stress here whatsoever. The best thing I ever did in the world. I wouldn't have created black marketing if I hadn't come to Singapore. I wouldn't have basically met my wife if I hadn't come to Singapore. I wouldn't have had my 2 kids if I hadn't come to Singapore. You know, there are so many things that happen as a result, positive things that happened. And so many people say no. And I've always tried to say yes, even when it comes to, you know, ask this girl out. Okay, say yes. What's the worst that can happen? She says no. Start this business. What's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work. You do another business that maybe does work. You know, so you've always got to say yes, 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 yes. When people ask me to interview on, you know, podcasts or interviews, I always say yes. Because, you know, what's the downside? It's great to have a conversation with people like yourself.
I wouldn't let you say no. You've got to come on this episode.
But it's a mentality. You've got to say yes. I think as an entrepreneur, I think you're always looking out and saying yes, and moving forwards, not looking backwards. And too many people, I think, in the West tend to look backwards, you know, still commemorating a war that happened 100 years ago or whatever, and all those kind of things. I mean, it's interesting. Singapore doesn't celebrate wars, doesn't commemorate wars, because it looks forwards. And I really like that mentality of looking forwards and not looking to the past, and not looking always, you know, they could be bogged down with, oh, the Japanese invaded and the British left us and so forth as well. But they're not. They move forwards. They say, what can we do forwards? What can we do to invent this? What can we do to create this? And that's like the capital of the whole of Asia in terms of the most amount of startups per population is Singapore. And the most VCs are in Singapore. So it's a fantastic place to be an entrepreneur. There's a lot of money here, a lot of ideas here, a lot of creativity here, a lot of hubs here, a lot of, you know, places you can basically become an entrepreneur. And it's saying yes to ideas and going for it. And I think following your instinct and saying yes, because life's too short, especially at the moment. Like people dying left, right, and center. Life's too short. And basically, you say yes to things, you never know what's going to happen next, do you?
No, that's a very powerful lesson. I think it's a very powerful message. I mean, it's good to hear that you've been able to kind of supercharge yourself to the next stage as well. You know, by just actually physically changing country. It's very empowering, isn't it?
It's very empowering. I think it is it's the way I think expats look at things, especially expats who decided they're not going to go back to where they were. Completely different mentality, so much open-minded. Like Americans over in Singapore are completely different to Americans in America. Completely different, like different people, like literally open-minded, multicultural, accepting, nice, you know, just amazing people, you know, just like inspiring. Some of my best friends here are Americans. Whereas you look at some of the Americans in America and it's like, oh, I'm glad I don't live there. You know, but it's like, it's a mentality. Same with the United Kingdom. People in the United Kingdom, I live in Bristol. I've always lived in Bristol. I'm going to stay in Bristol. It's like, you know, where is Singapore? Which part of China is Singapore? It's like, you know, so it's, you know, there's a mentality. I think if you leave where you are, you have a completely different mentality. Even when I went from Newcastle to London, it was still vastly different, as you know. It's vastly different, chalk and cheese, in terms of makeup, cultural makeup, you know, cuisine, culture, everything.
You're not admitting you wear makeup now. Come on.
Huh?
You know, I thought you were admitting you wore makeup.
No.
What an episode this has been with Chris the Mohawk Reed.
That's only for my OnlyFans. See me with makeup on. Pay $10 a month.
You know, every time I meet a new guest, I learn something new, and it's definitely been educational today. I thought
some good, some bad.
I thought I was going to learn about LinkedIn, but you know, never say never. So all I can say is thank you very much for being on the show today.
Pleasure.
It's been a lull.
It's been what's it been?
It's made me speechless. Yeah. Well, I've made him speechless a little bit as well. So that's good. We've made him laugh a bit. So have a wonderful day in glorious Singapore.
Will do.
And great to see you. And I know we're going to catch up soon. And
we will definitely, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chris J. Don't forget the J.
Mohawk Reed.
LinkedIn man. And soon, obviously, we will be running around Singapore together with our LinkedIn.
That cape at the back going through the way.
You can't do That's about the
That's Batman.
You have to do a LinkedIn. I don't know what a LinkedIn
LinkedIn theme. We should create a LinkedIn song for the film we're going to do.
Oh yes, exactly. This is the trailer to the film.
This is the trailer, yes.
So thank you very much, Chris.
Pleasure.
That was Andrew Turner, the founder and host of the G&T Sessions podcast, recording live from Marina Bay Sands, brackets London, and with an amazing guest. Thank you, Chris, and have a great day.
You too.